Hi guys, Nathan Araya and James Lamplow doing a quick commercial wrap up for 2021. Join us in a minute to have a little bit of an update.
Good evening, everyone. Everyone out there watching, I welcome you to Novak News this evening. And I've got my lovely colleague, James Lamplow, here with me. How are you today, mate?
Good, Nate. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very well. So tell me, where are we kicking off this evening?
2021 commercial wrap up. It might be a little bit premature just coming into the beginning of December or nearly the beginning of December, but a little bit of a wrap up as to what we've seen on the ground in the commercial market. As you guys will probably know, the commercial market is quite complex. You've got different areas. You've got your industrial, you've got your retail, you've got your office, and then there's a lot more depth to commercial as well. So a little bit of a wrap up. Nath, let's just get straight into it.
Absolutely.
On the floor at the moment.
Well, so on the floor at the moment, I mean, look, if we look at retail as a whole, obviously COVID, such a big impact it had on such retail industry. A lot of people quite concerned, not knowing where it's going to go, how we're going to handle all things. But I think moving forward, and especially over the course of the next several months, there's going to be such an increase and still such a high demand for retail businesses to flourish, especially things like cafes and restaurants, those of which really looking to have a lot of people coming out of the woodworks, coming out of lockdown, and wanting to get amongst it all again, I think. But also, with that, there's been a lot of properties that have, more or less been stagnant, that have been sitting there, and owners wondering, what are we going to do with those spaces? And there's been some really creative and genius minds out there who have seen those vacant spots and then in turn wanted to turn them around and turn them into premises that have allowed for it to be then a cafe and a restaurant. So it's evolving something that's been stagnant, evolving something that's not really had that light shine on it before, and turning into something different. What are your thoughts, James?
Yeah, look, I think it's pretty complex because we've gone through COVID. I don't like talking about COVID anymore, but it's had pretty significant effects on everyone in one shape or another. For COVID, in terms of commercial, retail has been struggling for a number of years. We could see it where our office is based in DY. You can see Pittwater Road just behind us here. We've got DY and we've got Brookvale, really, really strong commercial suburbs, Brookvale in particular. But what we're seeing is that those main road strips that traditionally have always been thriving, there was a couple of years where they went a little bit stagnant or a little bit dormant, as you said. So I think we're seeing that that's really shifting, and particularly coming into these summer months, the commercial market, the retail shops, hospitality based, they are thriving at the moment, and we're moving into the golden quarter with December, January, February, summer, bit of travel, local travel as opposed to interstate this year probably. So a lot of people that are going to be staying close to home, supporting businesses. And the retail commercial industry is what's really reaped those rewards for having communities that are supportive of you and trying to keep you on your feet whilst we've all gone through a tough time. So I think retail commercial, we can say it's not quite there, but we're almost at a point where there's not a lot of vacancy again. There's a little bit more confidence in opening your business, even during these tough times. We've certainly had a lot of people, as you say, with some ingenious ideas to get something a little bit different up and running, and particularly the food and beverage side of the industry. Through COVID, we all know they've done incredibly well. So yeah, retail is one that's been quite promising. It's picked up, and I think we're on to better times moving forward now for retail.
Absolutely. And adding on to that, of course, it's the brilliance of having owners and landlords out there that don't want to see their properties vacant anymore, or have seen those periods of time where it wasn't, looking the brightest, looking the best, but pushing forward and being open to new business, being mindful of the time that it takes to establish one's new business, but again, giving that chance to people. And it's really shown, and I think it will show coming into 2022. So we're looking forward to that. I think jumping on from retail, we'll look over to the industrial side of the commercial real estate industry. And I think that's really, it's been solid throughout, I'd say. Yeah, the industrial side wise, it's been able to, I'd say, weather the storm really. Again, do you want to add on to what you've seen, James, along that time?
Yeah. So the commercial industrial side or the commercial industrial sector of real estate, something that again has been thriving through these COVID times. A lot of businesses that haven't been affected necessarily, where they've had to shut up shop, they've been able to trade. We know that, I know it's one small denomination of it, but what we're seeing is a construction boom around us, albeit with a very limited amount of supply. So I think we've got another denomination of the commercial industry where property has been really safe, tenants have been really safe. We haven't had too many of these tenants going through financial hardship, meaning that the landlords probably had a slightly better time than maybe if they had a retail premises from vacant from 18 months to 2 years ago. So industrial side of things, it's picked up. We were noticing that there certainly weren't as many sales or transactions going on across the beaches over the last year compared to your norm. But there's seriously some confidence in your freestanding Torrens titled or freehold buildings that people can buy. There's been some enormous pricing in Brookvale. So we really are seeing that, albeit through a strong time for the industrial sector, industrial side of the market, it's just gone from strength to strength again. So really, really positive there on that commercial industrial side of things, which leaves us with one other facet of the commercial industry. Nath, what else have we got?
So we've got offices. Now, the incredible thing with office spaces is despite, the Sydney CBD being one of the top places that, obviously a lot of people, a lot of traffic going in for work-wise, but then during that COVID lockdown period and shifting over to the end of the year, I think people got really used to working from home and having that luxury of working from home. But then the genius side of it all is looking at the northern beaches and being able to scope out to this side of town and having that lifestyle change. And that's such a dramatic thing that people look for. Okay, if there's one thing, not being able to go into the city, for instance, but being able to pick and choose where you want to go. A lot of businesses, a lot of places want to open up small, but go into this side of town, have that option, have that luxury, because it really, I think it's shown for them, it's made such an impact on their business, their growing business, of course. And I think from there, we'd look at 2022, again, smaller office spaces opening up, having that freedom. What are you thinking, James?
I think it's been one of the more interesting sides. Retail has certainly gone through its ups and downs in the last couple of years and months, but the office side of the commercial industry, it's taken us all by surprise a little bit. I think what we as commercial agents were expecting at the time was the CBD's closed down, major towers aren't being worked into full capacity at the moment. People have a license to work from home. We expected the follow-on or knock-on effects of that would be that a lot of these city businesses, they might be relocating back to more suburban areas, which might be places like your northern beaches. So we expected that there was going to be an increase in taking up of small office spaces. Now, we saw a slight increase, and then it went back and sort of dropped a little bit. So the office side of things probably hasn't picked up like we expected. I suppose you can't really draw any correlations from one thing to another during the last couple of years because there's just no precedent set for this. But it really just didn't pick up as we expected. So it's gone through its ebbs and flows. All of them have. But yeah, I think offices probably have a little bit of room to improve on. Hopefully a little bit more confidence in office-based businesses starting up again, relocating. And as you rightfully said there, people have been working from home. So they've had a whole new different style of life change change of circumstances. So they're able to work from home. For some people, they got sick of it and they wanted to find a small space. And they're the people that were, leasing properties out and finding offices. But for the most part, there's been a lot of uncertainty. Offices are starting to go back into operation again now in the city. So I think that sector has probably not gone as fast as we'd think in the last year.
I think if I can add though, the real positive shift to it all is with all the time that people had in that period where lockdown was a factor. A lot of people look to have the luxury of exploring, side projects or businesses of their own. And then with now time shifting, it's like those ideas, those small ideas, it ended up flourishing and becoming
Yep.
something big. And these are the type of people now that go, okay, I think we've got the confidence now to explore that small idea into an office space, and then essentially generate it from there, generate the momentum that they're looking for. And that's definitely a trend that I'm starting to see, which is pretty cool, because it then really starts to fill up a lot of those empty properties, empty spaces, which is what we're going to see in 2022, I think, as well.
Yeah. Now, that's going through the different sectors within the commercial industry. Something as a bit of a reflection, looking back on the year that has not quite lapsed, but the year gone, the need to have someone in your corner. So we know from experience that we have a lot of landlords that either hold simply commercial or simply residential, or they might have a mix. Now, some of these people manage it themselves. Some of them will hand it over to a commercial or a property manager to look after their business. Something that really became more and more prevalent through the very initial stages of COVID was that there were changes in legislation coming out. We were looking for updates from the government almost daily at some points, but weekly we were looking for announcements. Probably took a little bit longer for the commercial announcements to come out than it did on the residential side. And landlords that made split decisions, whether it be doing a fire lease out to someone under market rent just to get someone in there because we were going into quite uncertain times. These are the people, unfortunately, that have, and it's not a case for all, but have probably made life a little bit more difficult for themselves by, having to deal with some really intricate problems through the changes to legislation, to the rent relief, to the businesses going through financial hardship, stages that you have to go through to get any assistance in any capacity whatsoever. So I think that people that didn't have a commercial property manager certainly understand now that the necessity to have someone that knows the legislation, can look after you, can look after your tenant, and can most importantly look after your property with a long-term sort of mindset or approach to that, where this isn't just someone to tick over the property, it's someone to look after it, so that we're maximizing rent, making sure that things aren't missed, making sure it's kept in tip-top condition. Things that you probably don't do as a passive landlord if you manage it yourself. Often you might go and collect rent and do things like that, but to have the more hands-on approach that a professional commercial property manager would have. So for example, Georgia Hyde in our office, an absolute weapon in the commercial property management game. She's just an absolute rock star. And the amount of people that you're able to help just through these times where people are going through awkward situations, having a commercial property manager is the dividends between finding a good tenant and a bad, on top of your leasing agents, but having a good long-term relationship with your real estate, but also with the tenants, so that all three parties are all going to reap the rewards of it. Primarily the tenant, primarily the landlord, and then following on the tenant. And we're just here to mediate these processes, but you need someone that's going to do it for you, who knows the right things, the legislation and all of the little nitty gritty bits that, the general public don't just pick up from the media, which is unfortunately where a lot of our information comes from at the moment.
Absolutely. It's about keeping kind of like that harmony, really, and a cohesive relationship between all parties, and looking at the way COVID relief is essentially framed at the moment. It looks as if that it's going to be spanning over, looking onto probably mid-January of 2022, and with a lot of commercial property managers, again, with what James said about Georgia Hyde, who's completely on the ball with it all, would tell you that, with businesses that are affected, they'll need to obviously go through the processes through their manager, and then in turn show essentially the decline really in their business. Now, whether that looks anywhere in the low point to the midpoint, let's say around the 30% range, you will need to go through those processes to show the decline. And then it looks as if there's a number of grants really that are offered by the government to supplement this, but it's a matter of proving whether or not this is the case, and proving it through things like BAS statements, letters from your accountant, but then again as well that the landlord can be extremely open and flexible and look to have that window of negotiation there with the tenant that's in place. But it's again really something to have in place, and to really look after your asset as a landlord and as an owner. Looking over into 2022 with a big year ahead in commercial, I think it's definitely something to keep an open mind to.
Yeah, I think it was a year where a lot of tenants thought they could get something for nothing, unfortunately, at the landlord's expense, where tenants held a little bit more power because there was high vacancy. We were going through all these issues. There were people that were dropping their businesses. All sorts of things were happening. I think this is a time when the power of the negotiation, again, is really, really important to maximize your returns, to maximize your peace of mind that you know you've done everything you can to get the best for your property, for yourself, and also to give your tenant a fair deal as well. So that negotiation all comes down to who's representing you, and it's very easy to fall in the trap of being the nice guy, which unfortunately, again, in this game, it probably results in a lack of dollars and cents in your pocket in the long run. So, you know, with all that being said, it is a good time for commercial real estate. We've got Luke on a moment ago saying that there should be some good buying in commercial. I 100% agree with that, Luke. There's been a lot of investors in the market have been looking, specifically targeting tenanted properties. There've been a lot of people that have been looking to. It's been 6 or 12 or 9 months of realization or reflection where this is what I'm going to do for my next step. This is the next avenue for me to grow my business. And your location or your premises is where that starts from. So there's been a lot of thoughts and planning into where am I going to go next? Is this feasible elsewhere? Can I upsize? Do I need to downsize? So all of these things, again, are parts of the information that we want to help to provide for you when you need it. So if you are looking for something along those lines, we can always assist with the pros and cons of these situations, how we can assist, how your business can move, details about your leases. We can help you with all of that. So
and the thing is too, no matter how big or small the business is, it's really good to help explore people, help explore their ideas and moving forward and what that all looks like. So it keeps us busy, it keeps us sharp and focused, which is really good. So,
but look, this again, like to be a bit on a bit of a light note for commercial, it is a different side to the real estate industry that probably doesn't get the media attention that it deserves. But on the ground, you have businesses. You have a hell of a lot of businesses that are working their butts off every day, keeping the economy stimulated through COVID and outside of COVID. These are the people that are sort of the heroes that you don't see that really make our economy. So to be able to have a small part in finding people their business locations, helping them to plan and prepare for differences in the times, what they can do when times are tougher. It's all part of our job, and it's more of a personal note for us that we get to take a little bit of pleasure in when we can assist people on a more personal basis. But this certainly is part of it, and it's not just about finding a tenant or selling a property or looking after the property for you. There's a lot more substance to it. So yeah, we'd love to help you guys if you need anything commercial on the Northern Beaches. 2021, it's been an up and down year for commercial, but 2022, food and beverage firing over summer. I think people are going to be wanting to support local, as we said earlier. The industrial businesses, again, going through summer, pumping, although running out of materials or can't source the material that they need. And then offices, businesses are going back. People aren't working from home as much. We've got quite a varied amount of change on the horizon, but I think it's all positive.
Fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to it if you are. So I think that's a wrap from us this evening.
I think that's a wrap, guys. If you have any questions about anything commercial, real estate on the Northern Beaches or outside, Nathan Araya, James Lamplow, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to help you. But otherwise, thanks for listening and hope it helps.
A lovely evening, everyone. Thank you so much.